demonstrate as soon as possible.
It is the way in which we propagate our species.
Please demonstrate how this is accomplished.
So, what's next?
I don't know.
Hi, and welcome to Casual Trek, a Star Trek recap and ranking podcast, brought to you by Nerd and Tie and Cynical Synergy. Oh yes, I'm Charlie Etheridge Nunn, a writer and a fan of the Mass Effect franchise, even slightly Andromeda.
Hi, and I'm Miles Reed Lobato, and I'm a fan of, well, not really a fan. I acknowledge the cynicism inherent in the Image comic Void Rivals.
Well, that's an incredibly new comic, isn't it?
It is. It came out last week. It's an Image comic written by Robert Kirkman, he of The Walking Dead and
Invincible Popes.
Robert yes,
Kirkman.
Yes, the immoral Ant-Man.
Yes.
You know, the guy, Marvel Zombies, that guy. And drawn by Lorenzo Di Felici. And it's your kind of standard enemy mine knockoff. You have two rivals of two warring factions crash landing on the same planet, and they have to learn how to put aside their fundamental differences and find a way to survive. It's going fine until about 20 pages in. Jetfire from the Transformers turns up, goes, oh hell, I'm Jetfire, I'm a transforming Cybertronian from Cybertron, and oh shit, it's been several million years, I need to get back to Cybertron, transforms into a jet, and promptly leaves, not bringing the two aliens with them. And so you're kind of left for like the remaining 5 pages of the comic going, is he coming back? Is there any... And then comic ends with a fairly decent twist. And it's just like, yes, the Energon universe has arrived. Buy Transformers in G.I. Joe because Image now has the license to those characters.
Wow. That feels like a very, that happened.
It does, because it's 5 pages, but now you're like, okay, so do I have to keep buying this for either the story, which I might do, or do I want to buy this in the hope that the Transformers turn up? It's so incredibly cynical that I'm surprised it's not written by Mark Millar.
Harsh. Yeah, Kirkman, I like some of Kirkman's stuff, but I get full up and tired of it quite easily.
Like the bleakness of The Walking Dead, the books, I never actually watched a TV show, just turned me off round about volume, I don't know, 8, 9, 10.
Ooh.
Whenever, like, the 20th most disturbing, horrendous, depressing thing happened, and everyone was just kind of like, well, shit. This sure is a zombie apocalypse.
I stayed with it until the end. I was picking it up in trades, and I got to a certain point of a TV show of like, this is so predictably cynical, predictably glum and dour and miserable, and every twist is the most obvious twist possible. I gave up on the show and was like, I'm giving the comics one more volume, and it was the all-out war storyline, and it was a lot more like... Personal's a difficult word for Robert Kirkman, a man who does not know what subtlety is.
No.
And does not understand the concept of it. You know, he is all text, no subtext.
Kirkman is pure id.
Yeah, and it's fine. Like, it leans a bit into that weird trope of American cowboy, kind of like, oh yeah, everything has to go back to that sort of Wild West, everyone fending for themselves. Isn't this great kind of thing at the end? But it was fine.
See, Charlie, if you would listen to the other podcast I made an appearance on, Breakfast in the Ruins, where we talk about the uncozy catastrophe of James Herbert's The Dark. Plug! I think we do briefly talk about the fact that American post-apocalypse stories generally fall into that very American nationalistic mindset of now that the society has collapsed, we can rebuild America and we can rebuild it right. Open bracket, without any of those leftist values we don't like so much, and guns are awesome. Close bracket. Whereas, like, whenever English stories try and do the apocalypse, it usually ends up being like a bunch of people in pubs having one last one before Cthulhu steps on the world's end in London.
Yeah, so um we're like nearly 7 minutes in, and we've already got sidetracked from what was supposed to be a cynical, synergy heavy episode. So I feel I should press on and say what we're doing. We are celebrating the start of season 2 of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, mainly by looking at the end of season 1, but also dabbling with something incredibly recent with the first episode of season 2. That's exciting.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah. I had to watch it twice just so I could enjoy it and then take notes. That's an incredibly uncasual thing to have to do. But yeah, so before we do that, just quickly, what non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying since we last spoke?
Charlie,
Mm-hmm.
a man chooses, a slave obeys.
Oh,
Would you would you kindly tell me if you've ever played Bioshock before?
I have. I have played Bioshock
I
one multiple times, and the whole cycle at least once.
um I recent it was on sale for like $10 on the PlayStation Store, and I played a bit of one, played a bit of Infinite, and never completed them. Meanwhile, Rihanna, my wife, love her to death, proceeded to pick up each one and complete it in no unimpressive time. Thus, proved my wife is the more hardcore gamer out of the two of us. And I just thought, it'd be nice to go back and, try and finish the game. And oh god, Bioshock is possibly, even though I never completed it, one of my most favorite games of all time, just because of the style, the
Hmm.
setting, the story, and just how it just kind of how the story pulls you in. Also, you get to set objectivists on fire, and
Always good.
I am all about setting objectivists on fire.
It's a very good game. I love the was it Bioshock 1 Infinite DLC 1 DLC 2 kind of arc, and the almost cyclical storytelling of it. It's I know the weirdness put a lot of people off, but I very much love the weirdness with that.
Also, to be a little bit cynical, my non Star Trek thing from this week will tie in to an element I will bring up in a later part of the episode:
Ooh,
synergy.
nice. I am going almost the opposite with my non Star Trek thing that I've been enjoying. It has no relation to anything that we're covering today. It is Die, the role playing game.
Is that the role playing game about Welsh coal miners?
No, no. Although
Not
I'm sure I know there
now.
are at least a couple of games about coal miners. I don't know if there are any Welsh ones specifically.
Oh, so die spelt DIE, not die the name spelt DAI.
Yes, this is based on the comic by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans, published by Rowan Rook and Deckard, about a bunch of role players who have a reunion. Like they used to be a role playing group. They come together and they have one last game used in this game called Die, where everyone gets a special dice based on their character class. And then they find themselves trapped in a fictional world filled with horrendous metaphors for their current adult horrors, fears, their previous adolescent lives, and have to decide whether to stay in a fantasy world or go back to reality. And yeah, we're a couple of sessions in. It's got a very ritualized character creation, and that's really interesting to see in action. And yeah, it's like the prep is more than I'm used to, but
Okay.
I'm getting to play with fun early Vertigo tropes, bad 1980s fantasy, and yeah, kind of a bunch of arsehole paladins who look like the college bullies.
Oh no.
As yeah,
Wait, college bullies.
yeah, the guys that the kind of we're talking like the popular, like actually would be really nice, but for some reason just never got on with this bunch of freaks and weirdos that were the
Right?
role playing group.
The idea you can have bullies in college always just kind of staggers me at best. You know, when you're at college, like you don't have bullies, you just have dickheads. They don't
Yeah, I
bully
mean
you.
it's
You just don't want to hang out with them.
I guess it's closer to the decade, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see because we get to play with flashbacks as well of why this kid was a real asshole. At least in the eyes of these flawed, broken individuals. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing some more of that and seeing what kind of weird tales we get. Like just the character creation made it feel like there was more bleed than a Tarantino movie, you know?
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes,
All right.
yeah, fun. Right, and on that note, we have our first episode for night, and that one is Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 10, titled "A Quality of Mercy." This episode aired on the 7th of July, 2022, written by Henry Alonso Myers and Akiva Goldsman, directed by Chris Fisher. The number one hits for the UK. It was a weird kind of. You can tell exactly when in time
Oh
this was,
yes, this was a
as
moment.
the number one hit was "Running Up That Hill" by Kate Bush. So yes, Stranger Things must have been around this sort of
Yep.
time. Uh,
Um, I love
it's
the
a
song.
classic. Yeah,
Like, I'll be honest, I generally save listening to the songs for the episode like to an hour before we have to record because I am a consummate professional. I decided to do how Running Up the Hill last, which
mm,
then basically ended up in me going, I've got time. I'm just gonna listen to Hounds of Love
yeah,
because I'd say it's probably one of my favorite Kate Bush albums, definitely one of my favorite albums of all time.
it's so good. So yeah, and it's nice that the youngs got to discover all that as
Oh yeah.
well. Yeah, and then on the other end of the scale, the US's number one was Jimmy Cooks by Drake featuring 21 Savage, and I got excited for a moment seeing the name Jimmy there because Drake, aka Aubrey Graham, used to play a character called Jimmy in the hit TV show from Canada, Degrassi: The Next Generation. And I knew he'd done a song that references and goes back to Degrassi and all that. This is not that. This, like, I assume I got the right video, but it just seemed like a promotional thing for his album, and it felt a little undercooked, really.
Ooh,
Hey,
hey. So
um,
spitting
yeah.
some proper music criticism right there.
Oh yeah, take that, Aubrey. So yeah.
Take
Uh,
that, Degrassi.
Oh dear. I nearly had an excuse to talk about the Degrassi TV show, one of the darkest children's TV shows that I have seen.
I don't know. I have seen Biker Grove.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's basically like Degrassi's tagline was "It goes there," and yeah, Drake's character was paralyzed from the waist down in a school shooting at one
Oh,
point. Yeah,
lovely.
yeah, they
Okay, so he wasn't blinded in a rogue paintball accident.
no, no, like even the charming like 1980s version of Degrassi had a kid kill himself in one of the toilet stalls. Like, it was a meat grinder of a school. And because you only have so many cast members, like they get 20 odd in, and you'd realize these ones can't act, let's quietly get rid of them. That meant all the storylines got on the limited amount of people. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh no, I'm discovering drugs. I also have ball cancer. I'm also cheating on someone. Oh my god, and my parents, and I've got ADHD. It's like, yeah.
I think I saw that season of Grange Hill. Because there was a ball cancer storyline in Grange Hill. Anyway,
Oh wow.
this is not a Grange
Peace,
Hill
spinner's ball.
This is not a Grange Hill ball cancer storyline podcast. This is a Star Trek podcast. So,
Yeah. So I'm the one here telling us, telling you fine folks, what exactly happened in Equality of Mercy.
okay, I have set the timer,
Ooh.
and I would like the podcast recap to go now.
So we're on the edge of the Romulan neutral zone, and the Enterprise is supplying Outpost 4. Pike meets the son of the outpost captain, who's a big fan. He's called Matt. And Pike realizes this is one of the cadets from his flash forward. You know, the one where he ends up with goopy face and plugged into a beep machine. He decides to write a letter to warn Matt about the accident because he's going to die there, even though Picard saves the other kids. But what's this? Future Pike, and he's in Star Trek 2 clothes and no beep machine. So that's good, but no. Future Pike explains he saved himself and he saved the cadets, but somehow this made a bad timeline. He got a crystal from the Klingon Time Police in order to send Pike forward a few years just to see why exactly this is the darkest timeline. And yeah, Pike wakes up in the future, partway into officiating a wedding on the ship. He doesn't know the people, he doesn't know what's going on, and tries to muddle through until he's interrupted by a red alert, and that does take the pressure off a little. Spock is number one on the ship now, and we're right back at Outpost 4. It's been attacked. Ortegas reckons this is Romulans, even though no one's ever seen them and what they're really like. Pike immediately informs Spock about what's up, and while he's dubious at first, he explains that if this is a future timeline, Pike needs to act exactly like Pike would have in order to maintain the integrity of this exercise. He's fairly pragmatic about this being a hypothetical future we're trying to get rid of. Anyway, Outpost 4, it's a wreck, and Hansen gives a tour of the wreckage on the view screen. His son's not there, so he's still alive. Yay. And Hansen mentions a vessel appeared out of nowhere, blew up the station, and went again. And it comes back for more. And while the Enterprise can't see it, the Outpost can. It's a kind of flat green thing with some bits on the side. It blows up the Outpost, fucks off again. We get the Farragut, a Federation ship, showing up, and Lan's working on there currently, along with a captain called James Tiberius Kirk. You know, Sam Kirk's brother. Spock suggests maybe we do some fun methods to obscure the sensors of the Romulan ship. Kirk mentions flying parallel on a projected course to where they would go to just look like a weird blip, a weird reflection almost on the sensors. Sam gives Pike the skinny on Kirk. He's a big old nerd, but he hates to lose and is willing to bend rules to win. And is an alright captain despite being a bit of a pest. The crew intercepted communication from the Romulans, and oh my god, they have pointy ears. Everyone looks at Spock. Spock looks to camera, raises his eyebrow. Even he's intrigued by this. Everyone has a bit of a chat about what to do, and Kirk mentions there's a nearby comet, and when the Romulan ship goes near it, it'll become visible. So the Federation ships move to pincer the projected area of where the ship might be, but oh no, it's not there. It's behind the Farragut. It shoots it. Oh no. The Enterprise gets a shot off and it's all hell. The Farragut's destroyed. The crew beam over to the Enterprise. There's a moment to rest. Lan catches up with Pike and drops the detail that Una is no longer with us. She's also a hugger now. Kirk is pissed off at how cautious Pike's been with all of this.
1 minute left.
Great. Spock's found the Romulans, and while they could try to intercept, Pike decides to hail them, suggests a ceasefire for both ships, maybe try and repair and go on their way. And despite everything, the Romulan commander is war-weary and agrees. Kirk goes off in a shuttle on his own with a fun plan and says to Pike, call for backup, even though it's too far away, because the Romulans don't know that. And a massive fleet of Romulans show up because the sub-commander of the Romulan Warbird betrayed his boss and called them in. The main currency in Romulus still being betrayal. Kirk reappears with a bunch of mining robot ships, pretending they're a war fleet, because Romulans ain't seen what the Federation's got. They might believe it. And it's a stalemate at first, but the Romulans have sensed weakness. They cull the Warbird, who was noticed attacking the outposts, and the Romulans say now they know how easy it is to kill Federation outposts. They wreck the farming ships. The Enterprise flees. Time is up. Oh,
Time
no.
is up.
Oh,
All right.
yeah. Okay. Almost done.
Okay, almost there. And the stopwatch is going to go now.
So, that's all gone wrong. Oh, dear. Back on the Enterprise, Kirk has managed to beam away from the shuttle and all the farming ships, and that's nice, but Spock is dead. That's a bit bad. Old Pike returns and says, in his time, the war is still going on even after this incident. Spock was the best chance of peace with the Romulans, and he's dead. Every time that Pike changes time, Spock is dead. Pike's left alone by his future self and ends up having a long evening chatting with Kirk about his background, about his life and all that, and then he touches the time crystal and goes back. In the present, Pike deletes the letter, stops obsessively looking at the files for cadets that were at his future incident, and instead starts looking at Kirk's file. And we get one final little quick thing as Captain Patel shows up and arrests Una for being a genetically modified person. Oh no.
1 minute, 6 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, so that was a nice tense one. Although it did feel a bit weird having here's a future that might happen. You've got to play along as if it's completely normal sort of thing.
I felt that kind of took the tension away.
Yeah.
Because it is like it's you have here is the future. You will have to. It's kind of it's the big paradox of like changing a timeline story, in which case it's either going to be this timeline is worse than the one we had before, and we have to change it back, or this is actually the correct timeline all along.
So.
Ooh.
I was wondering whether it might have been better served by having our Pike simply witness what the Pike did, rather than having all of the, I don't know what all the differences are 5 years in the future, all of this kind of thing. Because, that does make it tricky. And then he has to just pretend like he knows what he's doing anyway.
He starts second guessing his own choice, and then I think the problem is he starts second guessing Kirk.
Yeah,
because he. Do we want to talk about the kind of the conceit of the episode now, or save it for the next episode? Or save it for the next episode we talk about.
Should we save it for the next one?
Okay, fair enough.
As I feel we could probably rattle through this one fairly quickly, and then we'll have a lot to unpack.
Yeah. Okay.
The next one.
The guy playing Kirk.
Yes. Forehead from Vampire Diaries.
See, when I looked at him, I can never see Shatner. I saw Jim Carrey doing Shatner in Living Color. The 90s sketch, the 90s sketch show, which kind of put Jim Carrey kind of into the public consciousness before the Jim Carrey movies. Because like in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, he does the Captain's log started, and he's doing the
Yeah.
Shatner. That's a bit he did on a sketch show where he
Oh,
played Captain Kirk, and the guy playing Kirk looks more like Jim Carrey than he does old Billy Schatz.
see, it's a tricky one because I feel like he's fine. He was the person with the least amount of personality for ages in Vampire Diaries. He was the less interesting brother that everyone's like, oh fuck, he's the lead love interest. He's the good one, isn't he? And they give him basically an exactly Angel in Buffy season 2 kind of arc at one point. And similar to Angel, he learns to chill out and take the piss out of himself a bit more. So he begins to get better with that.
Hmm.
Um, I wouldn't want like a lookalike.
No,
I'm fine with
it's
Chapel and Una both being actresses that don't really look like Madge Barrett. I don't need um
you don't
Paul
need
Wesley
someone.
to look identical to Kirk, but as long as he gets the energy of
Yeah,
him.
it like it. He's it's hard. It's difficult to watch him and not compare him to Chris Pine of the Kelvin movies,
Yeah.
who is doing a Kirk but manages to make it. This is going to sound really bad because I kind of got to like him in the end, and we'll see more of him in season 2. Apparently, he just doesn't have that kind of. He doesn't have that natural charm that both young Shatner and Chris Pine have in spades.
Yeah, he can definitely do the I'm I know I'm right at all of these things. I am smart but dedicated enough that I will force the situation to play
Mm.
by my rules kind of thing. Because Kirk, Kirk is Starfleet. He is a big nerd despite all of his
It's
flouting of
it's
things.
I think everyone gets into like the how Kirk has been flanderized by pop culture and
Yeah.
the films, where he's this renegade who doesn't play by the rules, whereas in the show he's this guy who plays by the rules all the time, and he's really good at it.
That's the thing. Like he's like there's a what you're saying about Chris Pine's definitely right. There's a not quite sleazy charm, but definitely a kind of like
He he he
he's not
has
quite a rake, but he's
he
closer to that than
he has the Harrison Ford kind of charm,
yeah.
where where if you watch a film like Han Solo, or watch any Star Wars films, or Indiana Jones, or Blade Runner,
Mm.
if you didn't have an actor who had that kind of Humphrey Bogart type of charm, the character becomes a walking sexual harassment seminar. It's why when they have Chris Pratt doing the Han Solo type character in the Jurassic World movies, you're surprised
Oh,
HR hasn't fired him for being a sexist, abusive scumbag.
he's so terrible in that.
Like,
Yeah.
and you know,
Um yeah, I mean, is Chris Pine the best of those Chris's? Because I like
he
Hemsworth.
he
Hemsworth's
he
great fun, but
Hems
Pine just seems like nice with also being, a
have
little smug, a little
have
bit
you
of a dick.
seen have you seen Dungeons and Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves yet?
Nah, I'm waiting till it's on streaming.
It's it's fun, and
Hmm.
he really kind of carries that kind of I'm kind of a rogue, but also I have, he does the bastard with a heart of gold and is kind of broken inside brilliantly.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think just Chris Pine just he has that charm that you don't really get a lot of in Hollywood these days. It is very much that Bogart kind of charm,
yeah,
that kind of Cary Grant at times level of charm.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, as exhausted as I am by Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast in general, the D&D movie, mainly from stuff like that, I figure will be have a whiskey, have some terrible junk food and have it on the screen.
we ended up seeing it at IMAX, and it
Mm.
was fun. Like, it's the most fun I had in a movie for a long time.
The first film I ever saw in the IMAX was the old Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh my god. I
Yeah.
do want to try, I'm too cheap for it, but I want to see Oppenheimer in IMAX.
Mm.
But then again, I'm that guy who is going to hopefully see Oppenheimer and Barbie on the same day, as God intends.
Yeah, that's the dream. So, like, Paul Wesley is promising,
Mm.
but not great, not ideal, really.
Like, I hope we get more. Hope that when we see more of the Kirk character in season 2,
Mm.
I hope he grows into it and finds a way to take the part and make it his own, like Ethan Peck
Mm.
definitely does.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Ethan Peck is very much Spock, the same way that Leonard Nimoy and Zachary Quinto both
Yeah.
are.
Okay. Why do you think Ortegas and Williams switched spots on the console? Because that was the really odd one of it's the future. There are changes.
Oh my god. Yeah, well maybe they got bored.
Maybe that's why
You know,
Ortegas is
like
so.
sometimes you like
Maybe
a new perspective on things.
maybe Ortegas lost a bet with Williams, and that's
Yeah.
why Ortegas is really pissy and kind of racist throughout the entire episode.
Yeah, I mean there are reasons, but we'll come to that in the next one. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes these sort of time skip things can be interesting to see where people are at.
Mm.
Obviously, we've not got Una around because she's been arrested in that future as well.
Yep.
We got Lan, who's only briefly back, and yeah, is a bit more like emotionally stable. Sounds bad, but yeah, she's learned to not be tense all the time.
She's relaxed and grown her hair out.
Yeah, yeah, and Lan's
Yep.
a favorite of mine, as I like that kind of horrendously abrasive Paris Geller kind of
And
character. So
do you know who,
it's fun seeing development.
and do you know who else we got? We got Scotty's arm.
We did. Yes. Yeah, we got Scotty's arm. We got Uhura actually as a proper member of the crew, and Chapel in the blue as well.
Yep. Also, I noticed that Uhura's uniform definitely shows more neckline than her cadet outfit. There's definitely a bridge between like the outfit she's wearing in the show and the kind of much easier on the eye female crew uniform that you see in TOS.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know, it's been an interesting look into the future, and also knowing none of that matters because it's not going to come to pass. Although, who knows? There may be hints of some of these people's careers might start going in directions. Yeah, the wedding thing was an interesting touch, especially given this was two people we'd not met before, and it looked like Pike didn't know who they were either.
Yeah.
And a nice little glimpse of normal life, even if it is 5 years in the future before the bad thing.
So I have two more questions for you before we put this on the list.
Oh yeah.
One, do you think that the final scene was shot in such a way that if they didn't get a season 2, they wouldn't have had the scene of Una getting arrested and just have a nice scene of them all on the bridge? Because you have the bit when Pike's walking around the bridge, kind of acknowledging all the crew on the bridge, which you then could just cut if you're not getting a season 2.
Maybe I thought they were a lot more confident about getting a season 2 and got one fairly early, but I don't know, maybe it was just letting Rebecca Romaine kind of have some time off. Go like, film this one scene, we'll put it at the end of this bit, and that's it.
You can go have a weekend with Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah.
I don't know, lift something. Second question. Do you
Go on.
think the moment Pike cancels the letter to the cadets, he writes a letter saying, Ortegas, don't be a racist in the future.
Yeah, just
Don't be a
chill.
racist. Chill.
Oh dear. Yeah, the other thing, just before we go on to the scoring, is for Romulans. I loved that the commander in charge, the Warbird, was evidently as like he's been through enough. He's seen
Yeah.
war for so long. He's someone that's actually been involved in it all. So of course he doesn't want war, compared to his sub commander, who is kind of fresh faced and eager to prove himself, ultimately to his own downfall as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Romulans are a weird one culturally, I
Mm.
find, because yeah, as a group whose main currency is betrayal of one another, it's tricky seeing how they've survived so long. And if they'll just go, yep, you out front, blow them up, and even the command's like, yeah, they got me.
Yeah.
Oh well.
What happened if the mirror universe Terran Empire met the Romulans? Because they both have that screw you, I'll betray anyone to get a rung up on the totem pole.
There's got to have been something with that.
There's got to be a novel or a fanfic somewhere.
Bound to be.
Right.
So, yeah, our big list. We have a massive list currently with 54 episodes of Star Trek. Well, 53 in a film, going from best to worst, with our best currently being Deep Space Nine's pilot episode, Emissary. Around the halfway point, we have Genesis from TNG, where Barclay becomes a spider. And then all the way down at the very, very bottom, we have Enterprise's Future Tense, which was just a wasted load of potential, really. Episode wise, it wasn't great. There was a kind of Doctor Who reference, but it did a lot of work for not much anything. So, where would Quality of Mercy go on our list? Our current number 2 is the pilot for Strange New Worlds, which felt like such a wonderful mission statement for it.
Mm.
This feels, obviously it is less than that. Let's see, we've got Spock-a-Mock down in place number 18, which has some fun hijinks. And as much as I like some timey bullshit, it doesn't quite match up to that.
No,
Do
let's
you
have
have
a
a
look.
kind of a ballpark sort of?
I don't. This is kind of this one's kind of difficult.
It's that thing of it is
It's
interesting and tense. It is dependent on some information we are not telling you, the listener, right now, if you're not already versed in Star Trek things, and take it in isolation, which is how I encountered it. It's fine. It has a bit too much work to do to get us to this place.
I think a lot of it really depends on you knowing some background context to really kind of make it work.
Oh, to make it work, definitely.
And
I know I came to this on its own and was like, yeah, this is interesting. I think they could have just gone, here's a flash forward, rather than he will also have to figure out all this timey-wimey stuff.
yeah,
But yeah.
I think I don't know. I think this part of the discussion we have to save for the episode we do next.
Yeah.
So honestly, I
See, I'm looking around, like, as far as timey stuff, Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad is at 22, and that's definitely better with the kind of cat and mouse time loop sort of stuff.
am looking at the marquee on spot 34.
Ooh.
Because
Okay.
it's not okay. I would say that our list doesn't start getting bad until we kind of hit the fifth, like the 50s.
Yeah.
And even then, most of it is just like that's Enterprise.
Oh,
And it,
the more I listen to Shuttlepod, the more I feel guilty about that. But yeah.
and we need to start watching more bad episodes of Star Trek.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely get to that soon enough. I would have to say that. Okay,
So,
do you think this is better or worse than the game?
the game's so much fun. Like I think it's probably worse than the game. Like it's still good, but yeah, I think as a standalone thing, the game is more entertaining.
Yeah, like this is fun. It's good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay. So I guess the next thing would be Picard season 3, episode 1, The Next Generation, where they get the band back together.
But they get the band back together.
Well, sorry, it's several episodes time from then they're going to get the band
We're
back
starting
together.
to consider getting the band back together.
Yeah, we're pondering getting the band back together.
Yeah.
This might be better than that because more stuff happens.
Yeah.
We
more
get to
stuff.
see some character bits. Pike goes through a journey.
I do like the bits where it's Pike and Kirk.
Yes,
because it does show both the positive and negative aspects of both characters and how they bounce off each other.
Yeah, I think despite our lukewarmness towards Paul Wesley's Kirk, at the same time, those two do a great job together.
Yeah, I like the parts of the episode when Kirk is clearly disagreeing, but the story doesn't go out of its way to make either Pike or Kirk right. It just shows that both characters handle a problem in different ways, and it's just that Pike's way was fine. It relied on the other side playing ball.
Yeah, and it's sad really because that idea of Pike's diplomacy could have worked, could have succeeded, and unfortunately, due to elements out of his control, it ended up being the worst play.
At the same time, like Kirk backs the play, and everything he does is to try and support Pike's position, even as that ends up causing the war they're trying to stop.
Well, again, it's where he may play a little fast and loose, but he is pure Starfleet.
Yeah, like Kirk does a Starfleet.
Yes, yeah, as he is wont to do. Okay, so are we saying better than
the Next Generation,
worse than the game?
Yeah.
I feel comfortable with that. So that puts it in at our new number 38. That's exciting. That's also our lowest Strange New World.
For now,
yes. Again, wait until the end of the episode to hear why there are these ominous portents going on. And the manic laughter of Miles, a man who sadly knows. So now our next journey into synergy with Strange New Worlds. This is kind of, I guess, technically a synergy with this very episode that we're about to talk about more than Strange New Worlds, but fuck it, it's a good excuse. We're going right back to the original series for the first time in a few episodes for us.
It's been a while.
It has. It is that problem of there are only so many, and I'm eager not to use them all up and just be watching,
It was, I admit, it was kind of nice to put on classic to watch TOS because it's like some old friends.
Oh. So this time we are talking about Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 8, titled Balance of Terror. It aired on the 15th of December, 1966. It was written by Paul Schneider, directed by Vincent McAvity, And the UK and US #1 hits were Green Green Grass of Home by Tom Jones for the UK and Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys for the US. I don't really care about Tom Jones, to be honest. If he's not singing with the Cardigans, I don't care
If
so much.
if he's not fighting the Martians in Mars Attacks, eh.
Yeah, but Beach Boys, love a bit of Beach Boys.
Yeah,
You know?
like Good Vibrations. I just, to put this in context, 5 days before this episode aired, Patrick Troughton had just finished his first serial as Doctor Who in episode 6 of Power of the Daleks.
Okay. Wow. That's
Just kind of giving a context of like where we were Doctor Who wise, because I feel like I have to keep pushing my Doctor Who cred on this show.
okay. Good. Good. It's all right. One day you'll find someone to do uncasual Who. Oh God, help us if we run out of these. Then it might be an excuse for me to revisit any old Doctor Who's and actually
You you
finish
you,
like
you know you
beyond the
know
third Doctor.
you know what we could do.
Mm.
You know what we really could do.
Uh-oh.
Hashtag Blaze Boys.
Anyway, moving on. Miles, I believe you're the one recapping this.
I am.
Okay, so I have the timer ready. I want you to engage us with some fun recapping.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream, and love, true love, will follow you forever. So treasure your love, is what Captain Kirk was going to say at the marriage ceremony he was officiating, because there's the old legend that shipboard captains are allowed to officiate weddings. Is that real? Is it a myth? Who knows? They're on the edge of the neutral zone, which is the gap between the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire. The wedding is interrupted because an outpost has been attacked. Outpost 4,
Huh.
led by a decidedly less Arabic Commander Hansen. It turns out they were attacked by a ship which seemed to appear and disappear before attacking, and the ship is going away. Kirk and Spock theorize that the power involved to make this ship invisible will mean that the ship won't be able to pick up the Enterprise. So, using some scientific jiggery pokery, they start following. There's a guy on the bridge. I think he's on like the navigation console or the weapons. I'm not sure. Called Styles. His great grandfather or grandfather served in the Romulan War, which was 100 years ago, and which neither side saw what the other looked like, and they attacked with like ships and atomic weapons because space is big, really big. And so, you very rarely get that close quarters that you see in movies. And yeah, they're following the ship, and Uhura is able to hack in to a brief communications feed and see what the bridge of the other ship looked like. We see what the Romulans look like. It's Spock's dad. I mean,
What?
sorry, no, wait, no, he hasn't been Spock's dad yet. It's a guy with pointy ears who looks like Spock. Everyone turns to look at Spock, and Spock is like, well, shit, this is awkward. Styles immediately starts accusing Spock of being a Romulan spy, and Spock's like, yeah, nuh-uh, that ain't it, Chief. Kirk is tentative about attacking, because doing so will start a war between the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire. Styles thinks they should go all in on attacking. Spock, uncharacteristically for Spock, is also all in on attacking and destroying the ship. If the Romulans are an offshoot of the Vulcans, then we're in trouble, because the Vulcans also had a violent colonial imperialistic phase, much like Earth. And so the Romulans will accept no weakness. They follow the spaceship. into the path of a comet, hoping that the comet trail will reveal the ship. And it doesn't, because the Romulan captain knew this was going to happen and turns to attack. And they fight and they retreat. Both sides retreat for now. We cut to the Romulan ship, where the Romulan captain is an old man. He's lost the fight. He's lost the bloodlust for war. Meanwhile, his younger commander is all in on starting a war because he wants the glory and recognition. Meanwhile, all the old captain wants is to kind of just get home safely with his men, including his old friend who's been with him for many campaigns. It's kind of like both sides have a captain who just kind of doesn't want to be in the war. The two sides meet and fight. The captain's second in command, his old friend, dies, and the Romulan captain chooses to eject him out into space with some wreckage to make the Enterprise believe that they have done some damage. But Kirk and Spock see through it. Kirk and the captain kind of get into a mind game where they're trying to predict and outthink their opponent. To do this, they go into submarine mode where they have to be really quiet and turn off the lights for some reason. Everything is kind of going well until Spock accidentally hits Spock hits that button.
Yeah, that button. You don't want to hit that button.
He hits the button on the console, which is make a big loud noise.
Yeah. Oh well. Right. Oh, well. Okay. Time's up. Let's see. Can you balance this, Terror?
Kirk wants to fight, but he doesn't want to start a war, and he has to wrestle with the possibility that his actions, because he is alone out here, and his actions, the actions of one man, might dictate the fate of millions. The two ships come together, and they come together. They fight. They flee. They come together. They fight. They flee. And in the end, Kirk and the Enterprise gets the upper hand on the Romulan ship, and the Romulan captain is one of the few survivors, and he gets on the communicator with Kirk and says, "You fought well. You fought well. I won't. We will choose to blow ourselves up with one of the nuclear warheads we have on the ship, but in a different reality, you and I could have been friends." And the ship explodes. Spock saves Styles from a coolant leak in the phaser room, and thus making sure that Styles is no longer racist against Vulcans. But in doing so, the groom for the wedding was the only single casualty. What a convenient twist. And so the episode ends with Kirk consoling the always a bridesmaid, never a bride. And she is hurt, but she'll be okay. And Kirk, he'll be okay too, as he walks out a wounded man. But as he walks through the crowded corridor of the Enterprise, he stands tall. He walks a little prouder. He's the captain. He has no space for hesitation.
Wow. 1 minute, 44 seconds. And fucking hell, Miles. You know what this was?
A really good episode of Star Trek.
A really fucking good episode of Star Trek. My word. I messaged you not even halfway through when I was watching this going, fucking hell, this is a bit good.
Yeah.
Literally 8 episodes into this. All of this. And fuck. Oh, so tense.
There's some incredible, there's incredible lighting. Okay, the dark shadows over the eyes kind of feels like this very sort of very cheesy kind of 60s TV kind of technique, but it really works. There's some fantastic acting on all hands. I think Shatner has some fantastic moments here. Yeah, it's watching these early episodes of Star Trek, like the early episodes, when I feel like Kirk is less of a cartoon and more, definitely much more multifaceted than he does kind of become, and how the general perception of Kirk will become. Like there are scenes where you have Shatner clearly carrying the weight of the world. There is some
Yes.
fantastic theatrical, physical acting.
I think it was interesting seeing them close out, um, putting the start of the end credits on him walking through the halls. You know, it felt like a slightly more victorious version of the end of Tuvix, where Janeway is like just had to do a captain here, like had to do some very dark, very like bad decisions. Like I had to do this and stow it. Like had to keep all that going and just walking through the corridors, walking through her people. And with Kirk, this like this victory, but at what cost?
Mm.
You know, a Romulan commander, well, the whole ship that was an enemy, but a kind of respected one nonetheless, is all dead. And and we see the human cost with the groom from this
It
episode as well.
does feel kind of ludicrous. Out of all the fate, there was only one fatality, and it was that one guy.
Yes.
I feel like if there had been more fatalities, then have him just being the standout, it
Hmm.
wouldn't feel so. It wouldn't feel
Obvious.
so melodramatic.
I think later Star Treks would probably do that
Mm.
and would go, well, you know, we lost 5 people and one of them was this guy, the
Was
guy
this
that you're
guy?
invested in.
But I think this definitely it's like with Cat's Paw, where they kill the one guy, and
Hmm.
Kirk is obsessed with this guy being dead for
Yeah.
the whole episode. But this feels real in a way that a lot of deaths in Star Trek don't, because even though he's in like 3 scenes, like the groom and the bride and the groom, like they have one scene in the chapel, then it turns out they're in the same department, and that kind of feels awkward from an HR perspective, but
Yeah.
still, like, it does give the ship a sense of community that, again, I always never really applied to Trek, to original Trek,
Yeah.
because it does become the Kirk, Spock, and McCoy show really quickly. It never feels like an ensemble the way the other shows I feel are designed to be ensembles.
It's a tricky one with that because some of the shows like to try focusing back on that. Discovery has a very elevated core crew. Enterprise was all about, Archer, T'Pol, and Trip and that. But yeah, whenever you see that it's a bigger breathing thing, this ship, it is rather nice. And yeah, you see obviously this is someone known and liked, and as obvious as it is of having them and only them die, it still works, like so much of this.
Like, so yeah, this episode is the alternate future, or is the correct future than the one we see in A Quality of Mercy, where
Yeah.
Pike is put in this situation, and we see Pike's reluctance to go in all guns blazing, and his steadfast, whereas Kirk is very much, I don't want to start a war, but if I have to fight and risk one to stop a war happening, then I will do it. Whereas Pike was very much, I will pursue diplomacy at all costs.
Yeah.
And in that one, the bride dies, and the groom is the one who survives. You get that very quick cutaway in the med bay where he's weeping over her corpse.
Yeah, that feels like one of those tragic things in either timeline.
Mm.
One of them is dead, and it's fascinating seeing this after having seen the Strange New World episode the first time, and then this time watching. Yeah, this time I saw Balance of Terror. I was like, oh, not only is this a good episode, it makes the other one make so much more sense,
Yeah.
and
Although
I can
space
see
combat
why they picked it.
and it makes space combat seem just completely different because
Hmm.
this. Have you ever tried to write space combat as a
No,
writer? No.
no,
It's
no. Actually, it's something I've rarely touched.
it's it's difficult. As someone who has written or has tried to write kind of space opera slash military SF kind open brackets kinda close brackets, space battles are really hard because there's part of you going, space doesn't actually work like that. Space doesn't work like it does in Star Wars and anime and whatever. Where space is basically a two-dimensional plane,
Hmm.
and you're just passing each other like your naval sea ships. Whereas this plays more like space is a submarine movie,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's
Well,
never going to be a submarine movie again.
that's the thing. Like, I know some folks go, well, Star Wars is like World War II fighters
Yeah,
in space, and Star Trek is submarines in space, and it,
I don't
it's
Star
never more than it is here.
Star
You know.
Trek. I would say is more naval sailing ships.
You
Like
got that.
it's very much like these are ships that pass each other, fire a few shots, and then turn around and do it again.
There's that slightly slower kind of thing than you get in a Star War,
It's
but
it's it's D1. Oh, miss. D2. Oh, you sunk my battleship.
well, and in this one, like that gloriously retro map on the view screen,
Oh
I
yeah,
loved that. That was like they were not far off of having that flat on a table with people with the long pokey sticks
yeah.
to move
The,
things around. You know, it was almost that level, and it was a joy to see. You know, it's
I
like, oh, that's kind of charming. That
I okay. Watching this. Do you remember Errand of Mercy
yes,
with
yeah.
Core and
Mm.
how Core just wanted
See again in another world, we would be friends.
Core wanted to be Kirk's one true nemesis.
Yes.
And meanwhile, I feel sorry for him because Kirk only speaks to this one unnamed Romulan captain. And I shipped them so hard
Well,
because
Kirk
you have
evidently feels this more than he did with Core.
yeah, like you have these two characters never meet, but they have such a connection because they're just going like, ah, I see what he's doing, but this is what I would have done. I see what he's planning. I love the line
Mm.
where the unnamed Romulan captain goes, "This man is a sorcerer. He sees inside my head."
Yes.
Oh,
That there's definitely that great vibe of that kind of mutual respect and admiration for someone you are hunting. Like you are
yeah.
desperate to
It is
dispose of before they do the same to you.
it is the I guess the few nobilities in war, which is the kind of
Hmm.
the respect for your equal, just as another man who shares your rank and responsibilities.
Yeah, and it's a level of romanticism of war which only looks at the people in command rather than the fact that it's a fucking massive meat grinder for your poor, and you know ultimately the kind of thing where it's it's difficult to write about or show war in a way that will not make it still look kind of cool.
I
And
I didn't feel that this one. I have a problem with a lot of Western military SF
mm,
because it always kind of like a lot of American and English kind of treatment of war tends to very much go into that World War II mindset where it's easier to make your enemies just faceless monsters, so you can have that kind of commando war comic of blam blam blam, die in bed, you Nazi pig
Ugh.
dog. Yeah, to make it just make it heroic, where the captains of both ships are very much like, no, starting a war is the last thing we want because war is a waste.
Yeah. Well, it's where in the other timeline, the unnamed Romulan commander there being like, yeah, as much as it's culturally bad and weird, going, yes, I accept a ceasefire, being like, well, yeah, I've seen far too much of this. Actually, if we stop for 5 minutes, fix our things, and fuck off back home, that is a far more acceptable thing than just continuing this cycle, at the very least, for my survival. And yeah, like he gets it. Poor unnamed Romulan commander in both timelines, he gets it.
Yeah.
It's just in both timelines he also dies, sadly. And yeah, like this was one of those ones where I'm not a massive military fiction person. I'm the only Etheridge man who isn't a fan of all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's a rare thing that makes me interested, like Jason Morningstar's game Night Witches, which shows the kind of the horrors internally and externally of the Russian all female like bomber pilots, or This War of Mine, which is about the civilian side of being in an occupied place. This felt less like war fiction kind of stuff.
It's really far removed from, again, Errand and Mercy, where you have both Kirk and Core arguing over, yes, war is horrendous, but it's our right to have one.
Yeah, they are both stupid in that. Like, no offense to either of them, but it is that thing of it takes cosmic entities going, you're being children. Like, you both know that this is like war is bad and you are fighting desperately to be able to kill each other in a senseless fashion. It takes these cosmic beings being the adults in the room to try and stop that. And yeah, in this case, it's almost the opposite thing of neither want to be in this position, but kind of have to be, and they know it's not. It's not going to go well.
No.
And yeah, we've seen a lot of attempts at rebuilding kind of a Star Trek universe in a war state, like the Klingon War in all of the first season of Discovery, but it never captures this tension and this kind of style of it all.
It never captures the blood and misery of, I don't know if Paul was it again Schneider? I don't know if he actually had served. Born 1923.
That's
Doesn't
probably the one.
doesn't say, but like that seems like the right age to have possibly been drafted into World War II. In some respect, it doesn't say. Not even Memory Alpha says, but like that's
the thing that I do know about Paul Schneider, though, is this plot is a plot based on The Enemy Below. So whether he served or not, he kind of adapted that sort of thing, the same way that a young Jim Shooter would be made to adapt things like The Great Escape into a Legion of Superheroes story with the Super Stalag of space. Admittedly, Jim Shooter was like 14 or 15 and hadn't been able to afford to go to the cinema to see it, so he just made it up from scratch. But this one was the kind of adaptation that when he was chatting to notable grump Harlan Ellison about it, the two fell out specifically because Ellison hated the idea of adapting an existing story instead of making up a brand new one yourself.
Harlan Ellison.
What a charmer.
Who adapted one of his own short stories into The Outer Limits. But that one goes into a whole that that ends up in a whole court case with Terminator.
Oh God! Wow.
Yeah.
So
Eventually, I think we're going to have to talk more in depth about Harlan Ellison on
oh
this podcast.
yeah,
I
yeah, that's
I
going to be a
am
special one.
I am a fan, but also Harlan Ellison was his own worst enemy
Yeah,
in many
yeah, one of
respects.
that scale of writer, like your
Yeah,
Alan's more, where
like
you go,
Alan
you're really
Moore,
good, but you've also got
you've
a lot of problems.
yeah,
Yeah,
but this is not a Harlan Ellison podcast.
no, not
This is
this
a Star
episode.
Trek podcast. No. So, okay. So, where in the top 10 do you think this goes?
Man, I'm looking at this, and I'm pleased you said that because I was like, I think it's better than House of Quark up in number 4. Like fucking frivolous hijinks
Like,
compared to this.
okay, does this come close to toppling Emissary?
Ooh, ooh, it might. Like Emissary, the benefit Emissary has over this is it's got a lot more time to make an incredibly cosmic story incredibly personal. It's really good though. Like
Like,
it's
like,
I'm looking at that top 3 spot. I think Emissary, just because a lot of that personal cosmic bullshit is very much still like personally my jam. It
mm.
might still be number 1, but we're looking at what Strange New Worlds is pilot in number 2, which is a perfect statement for like what a Star Trek is, and Cause and Effect, which has a wonderful time loop story. And then House of Quark. I think it's definitely better than House of Quark.
Yeah.
So then it falls to go, right, Cause and Effect and Strange New Worlds, I feel, need to justify themselves.
I think this might actually be number 2. Strange New Worlds is good, but
It's good.
this
I think it's one of the Star Trek episodes I've seen the most.
hmm,
But yeah, I'm not I don't think I could fight you on
like
this.
Balance of Terror is really good television.
It really
For
is.
90, I know we've joked that Star Trek TOS is just very kind of cheap, very theatrical.
Hmm.
So this one hits it out of the park.
Like it doesn't need to do more. Like it
No,
doesn't need to do more than be theatrical with its tension and everything that goes on
it
there.
does all the things which I hate about Star Trek Space Battles, which is people looking at a screen going, "We're doing this," and just have a shot of some ships firing. But it carries in so much tension. It
This
has
shows
some,
that can work. You
yeah,
know?
it has so much fantastic acting from Shatner, and there is some great bits from it. There are some we haven't even talked about Leonard Nimoy
Mm.
in this episode, who does some incredible stuff with just Spock's expressions and Spock just being nervous about the situation they're in. Like you have the part where Styles is kind of gently complaining about Spock, and then Spock looks over and he's biting his lower lip, waiting to see what Kirk is gonna say. If Kirk will defend him or will take Styles' part in the argument, and it just
Well,
for this
being
character,
someone so emotionally reserved, but so off balance by this
yeah,
revelation. And Nimoy nails it.
Nimoy nails it. And again, I was okay. Last week I was at work, and this older lady, I think in her 60s or 70s, came through wearing a 10 Reasons Why Kirk is Better Than Picard t-shirt. And we just ended up getting into a discussion. Like, she's seen every episode of Star Trek. We end up talking about the episode we're actually going to talk about next.
Ooh.
And we were just talking about we just end up talking I kind of get why like I kind of get why Shatner was kind of sexy back in the day. Definitely in this episode, like definitely I see why Leonard Nimoy got all the fan mail back in the day, because yeah, I get why these actors are so good. Just stripping away like the 50, 60 years of cultural osmosis onto these actors playing these characters, and just seeing them when they were young and in their prime, and just clearly selling this cheap little space show with all they've got.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, as I said, I am not going to fight for Strange New Worlds to win over this. As much as I love that pilot, as much as it is such a good statement on Star Trek as a whole, this episode is just like it's not just good Star Trek, it is good television.
It's
It is
good.
good
It's
storytelling.
good science fiction.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Like, yeah, sorry, Harlan. I kind of have to disagree. I have to disagree with you.
Oh no.
Oh,
You
Brown,
know
look
what
at the way.
happens to people who disagree with Harlan Ellison? They
What
join the other millions
his
of them.
his ghost is going to turn up in my bedroom and berate me.
Yeah,
My,
basically
my
that.
my brain does that to myself on a daily basis. He's going to have to get in line, mate.
Ha! Take that, Harlan.
All right, number two on the
Wow.
list. This
Wow.
could have been it. This almost knocked out Emissary.
I swear, I watched the episode and I was like, this is our first proper contender. Like our first one that could beat our number one spot. And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the day that we find one that does, much like I am morbidly curious about what hits the bottom spot. You know? Well, yeah. So, yeah, that's another one down. Finally, we have the most recent episode of any Star Trek to air. Yes, we have Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 1, titled The Broken Circle, that aired on the 15th of June 2023. That's 4 days ago at time of recording.
Synergy!
Synergy, yeah.
Synergy!
We're talking about the new shit. Try and get in on some of that discourse. Admittedly, by the time we edit, it'll be too late.
Yeah, let me see if I can do my best Matt Berry on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Synergy! Nah, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I may have to reverb that just for the noise.
Let me hang on. Let me try again one more time to get you have the reverb on this one. Synergy!
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm curious what that's going to sound like. And yeah, so to quickly rattle into the minds behind this, it is exactly the same writers and director from the finale. It's Henry Alonso Myers and Akiva Goldsman, and it's directed by Chris Fisher. And the UK and US number one hits are the exact same hit. They are Flowers by Miley Cyrus. And I've never really cared about Miley Cyrus.
No.
I feel it felt like in the video she was wanting, it felt like she was giving a far too controlled Lady Gaga. And I admit, when it comes to this sort of era of like kind of pop singer, I've been spoilt by Kesha. As you go like, okay, I was hoping for something a bit madder.
Have you listened to Kesha's new album?
Not a very latest one, no. But Rainbow's often on rotation.
Okay, like the new one. I'm not a Kesha fan, but the new album was pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, when she hits, she really hits with me, and otherwise, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I think one she did after Rainbows, I wasn't as fussed about. But anyway, The Broken Circle, which I kept thinking was a Legion of Superheroes villain group, but it's something else. Circle. Anyway.
All right. Okay, I've got my timer set, and I would like the podcast to be recapped. Now.
The Enterprise is on space dock and everyone's on leave. Hey, they can all chill. No. Now that they're in the fiction, the camera's rolling, bad stuff's going to happen. First of all, Pike's trying to get Una out of prison and going to take a few days away from the ship in order to do it. He leaves Spock in charge. What could go wrong? Well, Spock's suffering from stress after unlocking some of his human emotions. Benga suggests maybe play some music and chill out. But the second that Chapel walks in, his blood pressure rises again, which, fair.
Yep.
Yeah, Chapel
Yep.
says she's going to go off and do some architectural thing on Vulcan for a little bit, but not yet. And no one is happy with the engineers from the dock touching all their stuff. They've got all their apps in the right places and that. Uhura shoos one away and finds a distress call from Lan, which has been kind of coded away a bit, and she's on a planet near Klingon space looking after refugees from Nagorn, and she needs help. Spock wants to go and is told no. So guess what? It's time to steal the ship, a habit Spock will get into over the years quite a bit. The crew fake a coolant leak to get rid of the engineers and get declamped from the station. That's fine, but Carol Kane is on board and she sees through all of the nonsense. She's got a bit of a weird accent, but she is good fun, so I'll let it slide. Even better, her character, Pelia, is into hijinks like no one's business. So she shows them how to properly fake a leak and get free. Spock gets asked what his thing is, his version of engage or hit it, and it's a very Spock one. It's good fun, and a whole weird bit. But over on Kajitar 4, Laan's in a kind of Marion Ravenwood drinking contest with Klingons to prove herself and get a meeting with the Broken Circle. She spots Mbenga and meets up with him and delivers the exposition. Who are the Broken Circle? Well, they're a bunch of people who want to rekindle the Klingon Federation War for profit. Tuh! Tuh! What? Who would do such a thing? Fucking hell. These guys, apparently. Mbenga and Chapel stick around to provide some aid to locals who are getting sick from the process of making photon torpedoes. And Mbenga's taking all of this personally, as he went through a lot of shit in the Klingon War, unlike most of the Enterprise who are off on their 5-year mission during it. Both of them, though, get abducted by the Broken Circle, who need some medics. They both inject venom like Bane from Batman and kick everyone's asses like they're in some kind of Whedon joint. Mbenga beats some answers out of a Klingon, despite interrogation being something that has been proved does not really work as an effective tool. Anyway, they get a secret message out to the Enterprise and try to escape. They beat up some Klingons and then realize the place they're in is going up. It's going into space. That's going to be a problem. On the Enterprise, the gang spot a Klingon cruiser floating around and do their best to hide. The problem is, there's another Federation ship that's appeared. It's coming out of Kajitar 4 and obviously here to do nefarious things. It's on an intercept course with the Klingons, and it's the Broken Circle. They know that they can try and start a war by having this ship attack the Klingons. Back on the ship, Chapel and Mbenga need to get off, especially given the message that they've said is basically blow this ship up. Please, dear God, blow this ship up. They only have bits of a spacesuit, though. So they're going to activate a transponder in those bits, launch themselves out towards the Enterprise, and really hope they don't die too much in space. The Broken Circle's ship shoots at the Enterprise a lot, and they hold off on firing back for a little bit, waiting to get that right shot. They take it. They blow up the ship, and they spot the transponder with their medics, both freezing to death in space. They beam them aboard with a very shaky kind of effect, and they are just about alive. The Klingons, however, noticed all of this nonsense, and they have some questions. Luckily, they're intrigued by Spock and decide to make their peace over some blood wine. Carol Kane is joining the crew.
Ooh. Oh, so close. So close.
Oh, no. Okay, that's all right. That's all right. I'm in the wrap up here.
All
You
right,
know?
and go.
So yeah, Carol Kane, she's joining the crew. She also knew Spock's mum. Apparently, her people infiltrated humanity. We'll probably get to that in a future episode. Lan is coming back as well, assuming Starfleet will let her right back in, which yeah, probably. And Spock gets told off by April. But despite the telling off, he's allowed to, it's all allowed to fly because he did stop a war, and that's good because Starfleet is privately, quietly preparing for a big escalation against the Gorn and don't want to be fighting two wars at the same time. The end.
40 seconds.
Yeah. So, Miles, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
What would your thing be?
What would my thing be, you say? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're engaged.
Okay. Sorry, I had a slight hiccup, so I kind of panicked. Okay,
Okay.
My thing. I think it would be I don't know. Oh, I'm on the spot here.
Yeah. I realised I was going to ask this. I have not come up with one of my own.
I'm gonna say right now, since I'm on the spot, I'm gonna say my thing is gonna be let's get it on like Donkey Kong.
Oh God. Yeah, and then many complaints from the crew, I guess.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
maybe or to me, my warp drive.
Wow. It's a difficult one to come up with. Like the mention of someone using Zoom as theirs. It's like, oh, that's fucking awful. Like, of course there'll be some captain that tries to make that their thing.
Yeah.
I tried to remember what I say, and I've inherited a lot of terrible ones from my dad. Of like, kind of let's get a move on. Let's get a wiggle on. It's not really space. Isn't really a wiggle on sort of thing.
know, there is a captain who gets his Todger out for warp.
Dear God.
He's probably played by Nathan Fillion. And then it says, the hammer is my dick.
Oh, that's terrible. So this episode felt like it was doing a lot when I first saw it. Oh, go on.
But for those of you listening and playing the home game, what would your thing be? Please let us know on the Casual Trek Twitter feed on @CasualTrekPod.
Oh joy.
Synergy! Oh, actually, wait, no. I know what my thing would be. Alamein!
Alamein, of course. Oh my God. Terrible.
Yeah. Or #Blake's Boys.
So, obviously we should not be in charge of any ships.
No. God, I bet. Look, I couldn't even supervise a Starbucks without going insane. Don't give me a starship.
Oh God, yeah, I went mad with power just being in charge of a comic shop, and that was like a staff of 2.
Or Excel. Oh no, I know what yours would be. It would be Excelsior.
I mean, that would be tempting, especially if I was on an Excelsior class ship. Like, it'd be weird otherwise.
The ship would have to be called the USS Stan Lee.
Oh God. Would it steal all the credit from the USS Ditko and Kirby?
or could be the US. I don't know. How about the USS? Is that a bee or a wasp?
That's a weird name.
Yeah, sorry, no. A bee or a wasp just kind of flew into the bedroom.
Okay, well, hopefully it's good company. And so this episode, aside from just talking about our things, it felt like it was trying to do a lot action-wise, although writing out the recap, it was fairly basic.
Yeah.
Break into a place, well, infiltrate a place, get up some hijinks, leave, and try not to start a war.
It feels like how modern Doctor Who kind of generally starts its seasons, which is let's have a fun one to kind of get everyone in.
Let's have some fun action. And from what I gather with the screeners for this, reviewers have seen the first 6 and said this was the weakest. And good. good.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the cast are all charming, and it's all fine. It just, yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen these stories without having to resort to injecting venom and
On
like doing
I
all
kept
the ticky punchy.
I kept thinking of plasmids. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
think I have Bioshock in the brain, where it's just like, right, okay, plasmid, go.
You know, it's nice that while it was kind of self-contained, you know, aside from the Pike Una bit at the very start, it still tagged in the Gorn stuff from season 1. You know, you've got they're obviously ramping up the Chapel Spock kind of tension here
Yeah.
as well, with him having unlocked his emotions, which I'm assuming will need to get put back or calmed down a bit or Colinard out a bit as time goes on, because yeah, he's a little more chill in the original series.
Yep. This was fine. Like I think out of the 3 episodes we've watched for the show for this week, this is definitely the weakest.
Yeah,
Synergy has failed us.
it has. I'm certain there will be better episodes. I was surprised actually that it felt like a lot of the trailer was from this, and
Yeah.
that feels kind of. I feel fairly optimistic about that. Yeah, we'll see a lot more. You know, we know there are other things coming, and yeah, Kirk at the very
Like
least.
I think Palia, Carol Kane just turned up and just charmed the hell out of me.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Within the first 30 seconds, it was the meme. I've only had Chief Engineer Palia for 30 minutes. But if anything bad happens to her, I will kill everyone and then myself.
Yeah, she was so good. Like the accent was a little jarring at first, but I didn't
It
mind
was until I realized where I've seen her before.
it.
And that's our second Princess Bride reference of the evening, because she plays Miracle Max's husband in The Princess Bride.
Well, yeah, she's also been in Scrooged. She's been in Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh
Like, she's
yeah, of
someone that has
course.
been in
Of course she's been in
everything.
Scrooged.
Yeah.
Man, I quote that line all the time with Rihanna. I'm like, look, Frank, it's a toaster.
Yeah, basically that. Imagine that, but doing engineering in the future now, I
That's
guess.
amazing. Like, I love it. I love when we see these kind of offbeat characters
Mm.
in Star Trek. Because it was like, yeah, like weird people exist in the future.
Well, Polygon did an article which was like, Star Trek has just upended its canon for its new engineer. And it's like, I know the article itself is a lot milder than that. And it's by Susanna Polo, is generally good, but it doesn't matter. Like, if this alien has been around on Earth in the past, like, she can join the fucking thousands that have already done it. Like Guinan
I
was there in the late 21st, well, early 21st century. You know,
I just want the podcast audience to know that the moment Charlie said the word Star Trek has just upended its canon, I am now currently just flipping off the screen.
yeah. The only person that I care talking about canon in a serious tone is like Spider-Man 2099 in the new Spider-Man movie, and he's a baddie. So yeah, he gets to talk about canon seriously because he's the person we're rooting against.
Like
Yeah,
it's like what 6 years before the show. Like this, like I'm not sure like how far. I'm not sure when. I don't know when Strange New Worlds takes place before the original. These old scientists.
yeah.
So like yeah, it doesn't matter. Like
Doesn't matter.
Scotty's not in the cage. Like
Yeah.
he's not chief engineer in the cage. So it's just like yeah, Palia. We know Scotty's going to turn up at some point, but that's not today.
Well, I think it's a bit more that Palia is someone who knew Spock's family, knew Spock's mum, has hidden on Earth for many years, like long enough to become a teacher in Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
But again, that kind of ageless entity has been around before. We've seen
Yeah.
several of them. It's fine. Like,
Like,
as
it's
long
not-
as you get Carol Kane on the screen, I don't care what she did.
Yeah. Like, okay, so it's like, oh my god, Spock's mum had a friend. Well, good for her.
Yeah, she can have
It's
things.
she can
Fucking
have
hell.
friends. It's like, Spock has a sister he's not allowed to talk about on pain of death now.
Yeah.
And Spock has a brother he's not allowed to talk about because oh god, what's his name? Sarek is a
Yeah.
bastard.
Yeah.
Quite literally. I still assume my personal headcanon for Sarek is that Sarek has actually eaten one of his own children like a Goya painting. Like, he just gobbled one down like it was a fucking like he was a hamster devouring its young.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
Like, Sarek definitely goes to the Charles Xavier School of bad parenting.
Yeah. Yeah, with Spock as a rare good one.
Like,
One that made it out all right.
No. Spock is a good kid in spite of Sarek, not because of Sarek.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, he's got issues. Let's face it. So yeah, you're saying this is our worst one we've seen tonight, and that doesn't necessarily make it bad. It's just, yeah, there were so many episodes of season 1. I was just, my blackened heart was beating with joy. There were so many wonderful moments.
I did love Spock having a hangover.
Yes, yeah, the drinks with Klingons were fun.
Yep, like that,
yeah.
Like, to go back to the very nice lady, who came from my checkout, who was talking to Star Trek. I didn't tell her about the show because I felt that would be gauche of me to try and convince a customer to watch my podcast from the person who's like selling her groceries. Right. But she did talk about this episode, and she talks about the moment where Spock has to give the order to blow up the ship. And you see the tear running down his face. And she was like, the boy can act.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. That kind of, he knows that message who that message came from, of what it means to do that. And it's only a short moment, it's short enough that it was trimmed from a recap, but it's a good moment. So yeah, I feel this is exactly the kind of thing you could see an older Star Trek do in shonkier sets. But yeah, it feels fairly standard. Like, so our most, what is it? Our kind of lowest Strange New World is Quality of Mercy, and said this wasn't as good as that. Like, looking further down, is it better than Move Along Home?
It is, but I am gonna watch Move Along Home.
Yeah, I will watch this when I watch the season. I'm not going to watch it when I want to watch a Star Trek.
I am going to watch this probably with my wife in the next week because we've been quickly going through Strange New Worlds. Purely because she wants to watch the episode of Strange New Worlds where they meet the characters from Lower Decks.
Yes.
So we've been fast tracking through the show, which has led me to
cannot wait for that,
to watch a particular episode which I can't wait to talk about. More sinister laughter. But yeah, I gotta say this might be better or worse than Encounter at Farpoint.
Oh, the classic. Fuck. Like, maybe barely.
Yeah.
It's strangely comparable in some ways, but
I might have to say, like, this isn't as good as Let Sleeping Borg Lie, the Prodigy episode, which is number 46.
Yeah.
But this is better than Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah. It's definitely got some similar-ish elements, but for merit of acting and brevity, I think. Yeah, so that puts it at our new number 47.
Number 47.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow. So that's good. And yeah, we've talked a long time, but Balance of Terror, fucking good. And our
Yeah,
new number 2.
like we had that one. We had some serious competition for number 1.
Oh,
What will topple Emissary? What will it take to topple Emissary?
we will
We
not find out next
we will
week.
not find out next week. But anyway, you can follow us on Casual Trek Pod on Twitter, and you
Yep.
can follow me on Twitter at @manmiles, where for some reason I'm on Twitter. You can go to my blog, which is mareadlabato.wordpress.com, where you can see me talk about the films of Martin Scorsese, out of order. I am waiting for The Last Temptation of Christ from my local library, because I think that might be the next one I watch. I still have to write about Shutter Island. But that's where I am right now in my attempt to watch all the films of Martin Scorsese to piss off MCU fanboys on Twitter. And what about you, Charlie? Where can you be found on Twitter?
Well, on Twitter, I am at Charlie_EN, where from time to time I post to catch people up on my X-Men marathon, and yeah, bother indie comics people. That's about it for there. But you can find my comics, my role-playing supplements on skyshark.itch.io. You can go to Faked Tales, where I've been recapping my year of reading RPGs that I've backed on Kickstarter, a lot of which I've not read yet, and doing a kind of capsule review of each of them and what I've found. And Who Dares Rolls, where I'm hoping to get back up reviewing RPGs and talking about things like my last year or two of playing the Arkham Horror card game and the rabbit hole of that. So yeah, there's all of that. And yeah, next time we've teased
Oh,
it.
hang on. I got one more thing to promote.
Oh, is it Ko-fi? Because I also
It is
forgot to
not.
mention that. Go to Ko-fi, give us some money. We need money. Money is unfortunately a necessity.
Money is nice. We are not a moneyless society. But if you are in the Wisconsin area, I will be appearing at KitsuneCon on the weekend of July 21st, 22nd, 23rd in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I will be performing improv comedy and stand-up with my group Takayaki Entertainment, which has Nerd and Tie's very own Celeste and my lovely wife Rihanna. We will be there, and we'll also be kind of hanging around because it's a fun convention. It's a good time. It's nice to have. I remember the beginning of the podcast where it's like, yeah, eventually I'll have something to talk. Eventually I'll have something to pimp. So I'll get a blog. That sounds like a good idea. It's here finally. And then yeah, don't try and debate me on Twitter.
Yeah,
I won't respond. Debating is just no. Twitter's not fun anymore.
So, Miles, speaking of things that aren't fun, what are we going to be talking about next time and trying to have some fun with?
Oh, we are going to be talking about really stupid societies with really stupid methods of dictating law and utopia.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
We've got some special ones.
We're going to that Trek. We're going to that Trek trope.
Oh my god.
Oh my god! Like this,
it's going to be a fun one for.
Oh yes.
Hopefully for our listeners, if not us, in some of them.
No, I do not. Like, I will probably have to watch this episode for the second time in 2 weeks, and I am not happy already. And we may have something a little special for next time. Oh my god.
Oh well, yeah. And on that note, have a lovely day and do a very synergistic Starfleet.
Live long and have a jelly baby.
You've been listening to Casual Trek by Charlie Etheridge Nunn and Miles Reed Lobato. Music by Alfred Etheridge Nunn. Casual Trek's part of the Nerd and Tie network, and if you want to support us monetarily, because you love what we do that much, you can now do that by going to Ko-fi and looking up Casual Trek. There's a link in the show notes.